Alrighty, very, very happy Monday, and welcome to the TNC Sports Talk. TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is June 15th of 2026. I hope everyone had themselves a quite nice weekend. Whatever events or things that happened. I know it rained a little bit. I know the Reds were in town. You people are out there celebrating the World Cup. There's a lot of things that went on. So whatever you guys did, I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I want to apologize for my absence since last Tuesday. I had the fullest intention on having you guys a live show every day, but I don't know what hit us, but a virus hit the house. I want to say the week prior, and it kind of went around the household. So, everyone in the house eventually got it, and it kind of hit me on Tuesday. It was a persistent cough, really. Excuse me. It's kind of like that, right? But persistently, their allergies, sinus just keeps on flaring, and no matter medication or whatever house home remedies that I decided to use, it wasn't good enough. So it took me, it was one day after another. I thought I was able to bounce back on a Thursday, maybe even a Friday. And I just I couldn't. I really did want to have myself a solid show when I gave you. I didn't want to be consistently surpassed of sneezing and coughing. So I do apologize for those who anticipated a show last week. And it really got to me. I wasn't on social media at all, which is kind of like the highlight of what we do here. So we have a lot to get to cover. We're back at it. I know I should be here. I want to say that with a grain of salt because I could say I should be here and then something comes up and I'm not. So I should be here all week. I will take next Monday and Tuesday off and take care of some things I got to take care of. So I'll be gone half the week next week. But that's kind of like the foreseeable future. Now, on today's episode, we like I said, we got a lot to get to. Talk some Reds baseball here. We'll talk some FIFA World Cup, Stanley Cup Finals, NBA, and the WWE. Second round of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament begins tonight on Monday Night Raw. I do want to go ahead and I didn't. I'm gonna do some re-navigation of the layout of the show because I do want to talk about the FIFA World Cup that's currently going on right now. But I actually had that originally planned later in the show, but I have to want to change it because a game just started. And so I want to give you all the updated information as soon as possible. So today, we will see, and currently going on, you can watch it on Fox, something I'll probably tune into after this program, is Spain versus Cabo Verde. That just got underway. Later on at 3 p.m., available on Fox, you could see um, Belgium taking on Egypt. They're all um, in the U.S. So the Spain Cabo Verde is at the Atlanta Stadium. The Belgium and Egypt later on at 3 p.m. on Fox is in Seattle. At 6 p.m. in Saudi Arabia, or is Saudi Arabia versus Uruguay. That's on FS1. That's in Miami. And in Los Angeles, you'll see Iran taking on New Zealand. And so last week, a lot of the groups already began their pool play. And I kind of just run them through you very quickly. Mexico and Korea Republic have both picked up victories in their first two set of matches. Um, Group B, the entirety of Switzerland, Canada, Qatar, and Bosnia have both drawed in their games. Scotland in Group C is the only one who has recorded a victory. Morocco and Brazil has drawed. USA and Australia in Group D has both picked up victories. Germany and Ivory Coast has also picked up victories in Group E. Sweden is the only team to pick up a victory in Group F. And then Group G, H, I, J, K, L is yet to be played. So, according to the upcoming schedule, we will see tomorrow France and Senegal, Iraq and Norway, and Argentina versus Algeria. Kind of come back here first for a minute. Following particularly Team USA, who actually played back on Thursday, no, back on Friday, excuse me, against Paraguay, where they won 4-1. Pull up the schedule here because I don't know when Team USA plays next. I think it'll be quite some time. We'll move on from this conversation here. Okay. Links have me popping up everything but what I need to pop up. Yeah, this Friday on June 19th, USA will take on Australia at 3 p.m. in Seattle. That'll be available on Fox. And then I think, yeah, that will be the game. So if you're watching FIFA World Cup, I'm looking to hopefully provide some sort of updates, particularly in Group D with the Team USA as we get closer. Like I said, been out for a week, kind of gets you all mixed up. But the FIFA World Cup undergoing, I personally, I just like these good matchups. To be honest, there's nothing wrong with them. And it's good soccer. You have the best of the best representing your countries, trying to advance. And the pool play is probably, if not the most complicated to follow. If you have a specific team that you follow, you just follow that group. But for some, maybe we're trying to follow everything around. It's a little bit more complex, but yeah, we'll go on from there as we get through the week. But that is your matchups for heading in to today. Like I said, a lot of it is already underway. Just starting off here. Want to go ahead and give a shout out and congratulations to the Carolina Hurricanes for beating the Las Vegas Golden Knights to win the Stanley Cup Finals. I predicted the Golden Knights getting out to an early, what was it, 2-0 lead against Carolina came back and um I kind of watched the 3-0 win yesterday, just a little bit, watched it towards the ending, and you saw quickly it all come crumbling down for the Golden Knights, and it's definitely tough. I can only imagine how difficult it is because I've never seen it myself, but how difficult is it not only to win to go to the next round, but to win on the opposing turf. I mean, the Dodgers won the World Series in Toronto in Game 7, and you see the Hurricanes beat and win the Stanley Cup Finals in Game 6 in Vegas. I mean, what's the other better way to other than to win the Stanley Cup Finals, but to be in Vegas, right? So, you know, there was a lot of great things that I took away from the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think if you ask me, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NHL playoffs, a lot better a lot more competitive, a lot more entertaining than the NBA finals or the NBA playoffs. I think that's just a personal preference there, but that's just me. Also want to congratulate the New York Knicks for beating the San Antonio Spurs over the weekend to win the NBA finals. Um, you know, I'll go reluctant to say this. The only reason why I even find myself supportive of the New York Knicks has to come back to Danhausen lifting that curse. And it's just ironic how you have professional wrestling. We know has its ins and outs. It's a physical sport. It is as real as you're going to want it to believe. Yet, let's be realistic. There are some predictable things that like let's be real for a moment. There is, you can mimic and force a curse within within your wrestling program to help fit a character. I mean, what Danhausen has done within the WWE throughout his time and other wrestler promotions have proven that that he is a person who can curse and lift curses on not only people but on things. When you take that curse, and Danhausen had a pretty big bold statement heading into the NBA playoffs, lifting the curse of the quote unquote curse of the New York Knicks, and you kind of take a long shot. I'm kind of curious of what the New York Knicks or what Danhausen would have done if the curse wasn't lifted and they ended up losing. But that's something we may never know. I wouldn't go out there and claim that the NBA playoffs is rigged due to the curse lifting. But now you ask yourself, is Danhausen capable of actually cursing something or somebody and lifting that curse? And relevantly, outside the WWE, it has been proven so because Danhausen lifted, quote unquote, the curse of the New York Knicks winning a championship. And what did the Knicks do immediately following that? They go on to win the NBA championship. Now, living in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, I gotta say, Danhausen stopped by Cincinnati later on this year when they make their way to Heritage Bank Arena in September. Lift the curse off the Reds or lift the curse off the Bengals, one or the other. I really don't care. But I feel like to me, that's the story that is presented a little bit more because I follow Danhausen associated with the WWE and professional wrestlings. And congratulations to the New York Knicks. I know that New York, I know that New York has a has a low tolerance of failing teams, and yet they keep on getting perceived as failures time and time again. We know how good their football teams are not. We know in recent past times how far and how close their NBA teams can get, from hockey to even soccer. Baseball seems to be the only consistent thing, and even the New York Mets, which we'll talk about here in this program, seems to be struggling at its finest. And so, when you are the New York Knicks and you're finally finding if you're a New York fan in general, and you're able to pull away with some positivity, you hopefully that rubs off on the other poor performing teams in the region. But nonetheless, the New York Knicks takes 5 out of they went what, 4-1, only allowing San Antonio to win one game. Thought that was a good deal. Before we get down into Cincinnati Reds conversation, a story that seems to be unraveling is developing here on a Monday, and I want to share that with you. It's about Brendan Soresby, the former quarterback of UC Cincinnati. Last year, he helped lead this team to a Pro Bowl, not to a Bowl, yeah, to a Pro Bowl, but then backs out because he's going to hit the transfer portal. He goes out and signs gets transferred to Texas Tech, and now, and we heard earlier in the year that UC Cincinnati pursued a lawsuit after Soresby failed to pay the consequences of the contract that he originally had with the Bearcats. Well, a new stories developing is that Brendan Soresby has been dealing with some gambling problems. Inserted himself into a rehab, and now this has taken news waves. Earlier this morning, an article on CBS Sports talks about Brendan Soresby's dilemma, and I'd like to dive into it just a little bit. Says here in the front headlines that Soresby has a traits of production of a future NFL franchise quarterback. The challenge is separating player from everything that comes with it. It goes on to talk about Soresby not having to be the best quarterback in the class for this matter. Dante Moore's vertical passing profile is difficult to ignore. Arch Manning brings a combination of pedigree and upside of few prospects can match. Julian Sayin may ultimately emerge as a class's cleanest projection if he continues to build his 2025 debut. And basically, this article goes back and forth between the argument of whether or not Soresby could be where he is placed among college elite quarterbacks throughout the this coming up season. Obviously, with his gambling, which isn't a footnote, it will matter likely more than anything else in this evaluation. There have also been doubts from people around the league whether Soresby truly loves football in the obsessive, all consuming way teams want their franchise quarterbacks to love it for. So, from my understanding, is that he is caught voting or gambling on games in college, both back with the Bearcats and his previous team, and he gets sat in front of a judge, and his career is on the line, and yet the local judge says, look, we are going to postpone this until after the season, and while they're therefore we're going to lift your suspension, you could play football. Well, the Big 12 is not too happy about this. As a matter of fact, the Big 12 has filed legal complaint against Texas Tech seeking to confirm its authority to enforce conference bylaws if the school plays quarterback Brendan Soresby this season, setting up an unusual legal fight between the league and one of the members. Page 47 complaint obtained by CBS Sports was filed on Monday in North District of Texas, names Texas Tech and Texas University System, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and several school officials as defendants. The conference is asking for declaratory and injunction relief to prevent what is described as outside interference with governance structure. The filing centers on Texas Tech's stated intentional internal I'm having trouble with this today here. Basically, Big 12 is challenging the legal ruling of Texas Tech and the ability for allowing him to play in the Big 12 conference. Now, I'll make this on an opinionated clear. At the end of the day, it's going to be what it is. But the problem that I have with all this, and I want people to truly know, do not condone or believe that NCAA sports in general should allow any sorts of NIT deals, payment deals, um, and gambling should be a zero tolerance. So to me, look, you play high school sports for a possibility to be recognized at the college level. If you get recognized at the college level, then colleges offer you a scholarship to say, hey, I want you to come to my school, play football or whatever sport you want to play. And in return, we pay for your enrollment. We will pay for your classes, your books, your live abouts, transportation, all that stuff. And as long as you're with our school, then and you are performing at an excellent grade level, and you can still play this sport as long as you're still talented and good. That to me is where the cutoff should be at. In incidents where players get to transfer, and now on top of that, teams get to, if you have more money in your pocket, you get to offer that to you, the best players in bribery, which I don't condone that in college, no matter how good you are. If NFL can't see worth from any school, then it's not, it doesn't matter. But to offer somebody a contract to come play for, to get traded and this and that, I think is a bit much. And I'm not a big fan of it. The other thing is that just like in a lot of other professional, sports, gambling among one of them, there's many others that are not allowed. Okay, you could get expelled. You should be, you could get suspended. You could be banned from the sport. Look at Pete Rose, for example. There's a lot of situations, but gambling doesn't matter whether you're gambling for your team or against your team. You should not be allowed to gamble while playing a sport. It doesn't matter if you're playing for another sport or you're gambling on another sport. You shouldn't be allowed to gamble while playing a professional sport. And if we're moving to where NCAA sports are at the professional level, then that needs to be included. To me, I see gambling and I immediately say expulsion. I immediately say suspended. I immediately say take back our contract and we don't, that is illegally binding. Texas Tech, I think in this situation, either they're so desperate that they want Brendan Soresby as their quarterback. They've invested and done their due diligence to the point where they're willing to be viewed in this negative way to make sure that he's capable of playing. But I'll tell you what, Brandon Soresby, I used to love this kid last season. Knowing what I know now, you can't catch me rooting for him, even if he's had a breakout year. And maybe, just maybe, because we know that there's a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of players that find talent, they find success in the draft when they get drafted in the third, fourth round. But if I'm an NFL team, let's say I'm on the Cincinnati Bengals and I'm looking for a backup quarterback, and maybe 2 years ago, Brendan Soresby was one of them on my radar. If I can't as much as I want to separate college from professional, those goes against morals and what we're trying to do here. So I'm interested to see one, if this is going to hold up. We have about 2 months away before the NCAA football begins. We are 2 months away before we get to see if Brandon Soresby gets to play or not. And if he does, how is it going to be received? And if he's actually going to be able to live up to the potential expectations. And if he could live up to those expectations, I'd be thrilled. Don't get me wrong. I think they'll, give credit where credit's due, but I'll be interested to see what NFL team is willing to put that behind them, um, heading into, the future of their organization and possibly draft. And we mentioned the other draft picks that are going to become available at the quarterback. You know, I know there's a lot of names. Arch Manning is one of them. Slaying, if he is a Julian Slayton, Dante Moore, they're all, you know, up there in the draft, so there's gonna be a competitive balance, but I am not a big fan of this Sorsby, situation, really don't like it. Alright, let's get down to the Reds' business here. They, dropped, a three-game set, losing 2 out of 3 over against against the Arizona Diamondbacks over the weekend. Wasn't a good deal if you ask me, for this team. Um, they're 2-8 over the last 10 games. They dropped Friday 5-2. They won on Saturday 2-1, and they lost on Sunday 5-3. And Sunday's loss was also due to a rain out. If I'm not mistaken, but it's now been back to back years that the Reds have played Arizona, and Sunday's game, it's been always been over the weekend, and Sunday's game has been rained out in the middle of the game. I remember, was it last year? I believe I want to say it was last season when was able to take my kids through their softball programs to out to the Reds game. And it was like through the seventh inning. Luckily, we're so high up that we didn't have to move. But they were able to sweep the Diamondbacks, and they got off to a good run there. But you know, it's still a flip coin when you go to the bullpen for the Cincinnati Reds. That's the unfortunate. I feel mentioned before. I feel like our starting pitching is right where you want them to be at. Rhett Lauder, I think, shows great signs being able to come back from injury and going 5 2/3 of an inning in another outing. You know, the walks are, the walk to strikeout ratios are always going to be there. But we limited 1 run from Nick Lodolo, 2 runs from Nick Lodolo on Friday. We limited Lauder 1 run on Saturday, and then limited Andrew Abbott 1 run on Sunday. And so the Arizona Diamondbacks put up 11 runs, and we were only able to muster 7 in the series alone. And so, I think we roll over to the question that I would think I wanted to have last week with you guys. And that was, well, what's the deal with our trade? And I think I'm not the only person saying this, okay? But I feel like the Reds need to trade now. I put out an article yesterday or last Monday throwing out the possible idea of reuniting Aroldis Chapman back at Great American Ballpark in a Reds uniform. He's on one of his best performances, and he doesn't seem like he's really let off, and he can be somebody that we could desperately use for consistency reasonings in this bullpen. But there's just no promises when you say, "Hey, I'm gonna throw out Tony Santion or Caleb Ferguson or uh, Zach Maxwell, for example. There's just no promises that they're going to carry you in. And, yeah, sure, the argument could be said on the same other side of the field. And if we put up more runs and given, we could definitely earn ourselves more runs. But if our bullpen can't hold us, if we are holding ourselves in a ball game 2-2 in the late innings on Friday, and we give up that to the bullpen, and then we do that again on Sunday, it's 3-3 tie game. I know it's rained out. We end up we're actually leading 3-2 in the ball game. And then we give up a 2-run home run for them to go out in front 4-3. The rain comes, score in an insurance run in the ninth, and then that's all we can muster. So I would argue that we need to get some trading done right now, right here, done right now, not wait until the trade deadline because that may be a bit too late. The positive thing, because there is some positives out of the Reds weekend, is Noelvi Marte. Noelvi Marte, started off on the major league roster, got sent down at the end of April, got called back up here recently, has really shown that he has been able to adapt and change his ways. And that carries from AAA. Marte went 1-for-4 on Friday, 1-for-3 on Saturday, and 1-for-4 on Sunday. And that doesn't look very impressive. That's 3-for-11. But every hit did have was a home run. And so that is something to pay attention to. JJ Bleday added to that with a home run on Sunday. And the Reds have accumulated 4 home runs over the weekend, 3 of them at which by Noelvi Marte. And so it's great to see um, Marte swinging the bat, hitting it out the ball. All right, let's take a look at what's going on with the Reds injuries here. An update on Emilio Pagan was provided on June 14th. Face hitters again in a simulated game, live BP on Saturday. The Spring Complex at Goodyear, Arizona. He's scheduled to begin rehab assignment with an ACL club and pitch 3 innings on June 18th. Pierce Johnson scheduled to face hitters in a simulated game from live BP later on today, actually. He went down on May 30th with a right elbow inflammation. Ellie De La Cruz, last update was on Friday. MRI exam on June 12th revealed 90% healing and a chance to increase his intensity and amount of baseball activities, which is a great sight to see from him. Still expected to return later this month. And that is pretty much it on everyone else. Last updates for everyone else, like Ashcraft was on June 2nd, May 30th for Brandon Williamson. And then Jose Trevino yesterday was added to the from the 10-day IL option. PJ Higgins down to AAA. That is your injury updates. Just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work for these Reds here, right? And it's been gruesome. It's been grinding. I'll tell you that, say the least. All right. Well, moving on along here, and tonight the Reds begin a 3-game set with the New York Mets. The good news is that back in May, we got a chance to face the Mets in New York, and we took 2 out of 3. I believe it was in May, like that long ago. But the Mets took 2 out of 3, and we hope to continue that heading into this series. The Mets are 32 and 39. They are in 5th place of the NL East division. They are 6 and 4 over the last 10 games. That included a series win against the Atlanta Braves, which, by the way, are in first place with 46 wins. So the Mets have turned themselves around a little bit. They're trying to find that little spark hope. Both teams are trying to find that spark hope. And the question is going to be which team comes out on top. The Reds are 33 and 37, fifth in the NL Central. And today's game will be played first pitch at 7:10, available on Reds TV or via you can watch it on Fox 19 or listen to it on WOW 700. Today's pitchers, the Mets will have right-handed pitcher Tobias Myers on the mound. He's 0 for 1. Oh, he's 0-1 with a 4.05 ERA. He last pitched in a one-inning outing against the Miami Marlins on May 29th. The Cincinnati Reds will send out right-handed pitcher Chase Burns, who's 7-1 with a 2.14 ERA. He last pitched against the Padres last week, where he went 5 1/3 of an inning, giving up 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. So it's a Chase Burns day. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to a Chase Burns day. And like I said, we'll have a 3-game series. We'll be off Thursday, and we'll head out to the Bronx for a 3-game series against the Yankees later on this weekend. Take a look at the NL Central and everything that's went on over the weekend. The Marlins and Pirates had a 3-game set, where the Marlins took 2 of 3 in Pittsburgh, winning Friday and Sunday. Milwaukee took a 3-game series set against the Phillies, taking 2 out of 3 as they shut them out on Friday and Sunday, but lost 9-8 on Saturday. The Cardinals dropped a series over the Minnesota Twins. They only took 1 out of 3, losing on Friday and Sunday. And the Cubs took 2 out of 3 against the Giants on the road, winning the first 2 games on Friday, Saturday, losing their final game on Sunday. So Milwaukee and Chicago are the only 2 teams that took away with the series win out of all the National League Central teams, other than the Mets and the Reds game that begins tonight at 7:10. At 7:45, the Padres will take on the Cardinals in a series game. 8:05, the Colorado Rockies head out to Wrigley Field to take on the Chicago Cubs. And at 9:40, you could take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Athletics. All those games are available your way following the on MLB.com. The NL Central looks like as of today. Milwaukee Brewers have a 43-26 record, followed by the Cardinals with a 38-31 record. The Cubs are in third place with a 37-36 record. The Pirates are 36-36, and the Reds are 33-37. The Reds are 17-8 at home, while the Mets are 14-29 at home on the road. I gotta say, I'm still always hoping. I'm not counting the Reds out of a series. I'm always hopeful that the Reds can start turning things around. Well, when can the Reds turn things around, right? And I say now is better than later. Okay? I say when the Mets come into town this week, they are 14-21. They're not playing well on the road. Forget about the last series and what took place. It's controversial. We should have had a 2-game win. I get that's granted. But this series is the series that presents itself the best case to turn this ball club around, if any. You have you're 1-2. We go back to the original saying you're 1-2 on home. Finish off their series with at least 500. Take 2 out of 3, and I say on Thursday, it is a win, despite what the record closed at. You become one game closer back to 500. The Reds can't move on and even think about contending until they can get back to 500 baseball, right? Until they could even the playing field on the field. They can't sit here and begin, oh, are we tenders? Are we out of the playoff race? Where are we at in the wild card? Because that's irrelevant. Because the one thing we do know is that in order to be a contender today in baseball, we have to have a winning record. There's so many other teams with winning records. So get back. Our only objective right now is to get back to 500. How do we do that? We begin taking 2 out of 3 against the Mets. And this is a series that they're not playing well. They're not a good team. They're in the bottom of the division, and we should win. So we have to find a way to win. What's going on down on the farm here? To start things off in Louisville against the Bats. The Bats are 6-31, fifth in the International League West, as they took on the Iowa Cubs, the AAA affiliates to the Chicago Cubs last week. They put up some really tremendous runs here early on in the week, winning 20-5, 20-3. Ultimately, they tied on Sunday, but they took 3 out of the 5 in the series. Excuse me, against the Cubs. They were 5-4 over the last 10 with a 1-game winning streak. Up next is on the road against the Gwinnett Stripers, who are 35-33, 6 in the International League West. They took 3 out of 5 against Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp last week. Their series begins on Tuesday, will play out through Sunday in a 6-game set. At home, the Stripers are 16-17, while the Bats are 17-12 on the road. The Chattanooga Lookouts are 34-29, second in the Southern League North Division. They took on the Rocket City Trash Pandas this past week, where they split the series 3 apiece with the Trash Pandas. They are now moved forward 6-4 with a 2-game losing streak, losing on Saturday and Sunday. Their next opponent is in against the Knoxville Smokies on the road. The Smokies are 35-28, first in the Southern League North Division. They just come off of a 3 of 7 against the Montgomery. They took 5 of 7 against the Montgomery Biscuits, which included a makeup game from earlier this year. Smokies are the AA affiliates to the Chicago Cubs. The Trash Pandas are the AA affiliates to the Los Angeles Angels. And the Stripers are the AAA affiliates to the Atlanta Braves. The Lookouts are 21-12 on the road, taking on a 17-15 home record against the Smokies. The Dayton Dragons are 36-27, third in the Midwest League East Division, as they took on the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, the High A affiliates to the San Diego Padres. Also put up some crooked numbers in a couple of wins, winning on Tuesday, Wednesday, putting up double digits in victories to both of them. They dropped 1. They were 5-1, and their highest game was 17-14. Wow. 17 runs on Sunday, 14 runs on Wednesday, 12 runs on Tuesday. Their next opponent is on the road against the Peoria Chiefs, the High A affiliates to the St. Louis Cardinals. The Chiefs are 32-31, third in the Midwest League West Division. They took 2 of 6 against the South Bend Cubs. They're 19-11 at home and 18-15 on the road. And that is your down on the farm scenario. Let me pop up my next one here. Let's take a look at the NCAA baseball tournament as it continues on to today. Let me just flip to the page here. In the final four bracket, which is a double elimination bracket, so you have to lose two games to advance. So in the first pool, it was UNC, West Virginia, Troy, and Ole Miss. And so if you lose two, you are eliminated. Ole Miss lost two. UNC has not lost a single game. West Virginia and Troy has both lost one. And then I believe their game is tomorrow. Let me just fall through and double check. Yep. Tomorrow, Troy and West Virginia will play at 2 p.m. on ESPN. Well, in the second bracket, you have Georgia, Texas, Alabama, and Oklahoma. And Georgia has not lost a game along with Oklahoma. And Texas and Alabama have both lost one. So this is how it goes. Today, Alabama will take on Texas. The loser, that's at 2 p.m., available on ESPN. The winner stays alive. The loser, the loser goes home. They will wait to face the loser of Georgia and Oklahoma, who plays tonight at 7 p.m. on ESPN. The loser of that game will go on to face the winner of Alabama and Texas, and then the winner of that one go back and play the winner of Georgia and Oklahoma. I know it's a little bit more complicated. So the winner of West Virginia and Troy will go on to play UNC. The winner of that game will be in the World Series, the College World Series. The winner of Georgia and Oklahoma will wait. The loser of Georgia and Oklahoma will wait and face the winner of Alabama and Texas. The outcome of that game will go back to the winner of Georgia and Oklahoma, and the winner of that will be. So by the end of this week, we will learn. We're wrapping up very closely. That is your college baseball tournament update. All right, we're going to move over to WWE in our last segments of today's programming. Let's begin our conversations talking about SmackDown here as we take a look at the what took place last Friday night. Well, the two things that we walked away from was the Rey Phoenix successfully defended and defeated Axiom to retain his AAA Cruiserweight Championship. We also saw the results of the Queen of the Ring and the King of the Ring tournament as Charlotte Flair defeats Lyra Valkyria, Sol Ruca, and Jade Cargill. In the King of the Ring tournament, Jey Uso defeated LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Finn Balor. And so the first round of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament has officially concluded. I thought it was a little bit I saw some highlights. I did not know this. And I thought it was all natural and proves me how much I know. But Jade Cargill has a very expensive wig that she wears, and it almost came off in her fatal four-way match on Friday night. I thought that was a bit funny. Um, that's what happens when you want to wear these costumes. I mean, we've seen Kane, for example, have his mask taken off. Rey Mysterio just this past week had his mask taken off and removed. And so, that's what comes with the territory. I'm not surprised to see Charlotte Flair or Jey Uso advance to the next round. So, as far as the King of the Ring continues in this coming up round, which will take place this week, tonight we'll see Obafemi and Dominic. Friday night we'll see Javon Evans and Finn Balor, I believe, right? We may see that one next Monday. But in the Queen of the Ring, we'll see Liv Morgan take on Charlotte Flair and Io Sky take on Raquel Rodriguez. So Was this what you expected out of the first round? And I would honestly say that these let's take a look at the women's Queen of the Ring. I vision Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez advancing. Um, it's going to be interesting. That's what I see. And I see that because I could see some sort of shenanigans happening heading into SummerSlam. And I think we will see a respark with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley heading into SummerSlam as Liv Morgan tries to win both championships. Now, if that's the case, I would honestly not want to honestly rather see something a little bit different. I'd rather see Raquel Rodriguez go on to win and challenge Liv Morgan. But the initial thought process would be Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez going to Saudi Arabia, and you had two options. You have Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez laying down to Liv, or you have Charlotte Flair, or you have Raquel Rodriguez battling and beating Liv. Charlotte Flair is another great candidate. Io Sky is another great candidate. Um, it's hard to think that somebody like Charlotte Flair would go back to on a verge of winning another major championship at this stage in her career. She's already set the record for the most championships won by a woman. And so I wouldn't I mean, she's a great name to be thrown in the mix, but I only think it carries her so far. And Io Sky, wouldn't you love to see Io Sky and Rhea Ripley do battle one on one? Something that we were supposed to see at WrestleMania over a year ago, but before Bianca Belair inserted herself. So there's a lot of great possible scenarios, which I love right now at the stage of the Queen of the Ring tournament. Now we get to the King of the Ring tournament, and we have Javon Evans, or it's not, yeah. Is it Javon Evans? Is it Jay? I think it's Jay Uso. Excuse me. It was Jay Uso taking on Finn Balor, right? Want to make that, make sure I'm all correct here. So it's Jay Uso taking on Javon Evans, while Dominic takes on Oba Femi. My mistake. um, I know a lot of people have already talked, went out. So it's either, I think there's two options. Either you see Oba Femi, Brock Lesnar return and attacks Oba Femi tonight on Raw. We'll get to that in a minute. Or we'll see Oba go to Saudi Arabia, take on Jey Uso, and then Brock Lesnar attacks him there. I feel like the big picture is right there in front of you. It's Brock Lesnar being attacked or attacking Oba Femi, costing him the King of the Ring. And I think it has to be done in Saudi Arabia. I think you get two big name entities when you see that happen. Forces Jey Usos to win. And I don't know. That's a whole nother feeling. I don't know how I feel about that. But that's kind of like the only draw line. So who do you have winning the next round of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament? Last but not least, we have WWE Monday Night Raw, which is back in the States tonight at the CFG Bank Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. We'll see Oba Femi take on Dominic Mysterio in the King of the Ring tournament, as we will see Io Sky take on Raquel Rodriguez in the Queen of the Ring tournament. Those are both set to take place tonight. We'll also see Chad Gable in action for the first time in the WWE since being El Grande Americano. And then the OTC Roman Reigns returns. What's next? And do they have a possible opponent for Roman Reigns heading into June 27th. I'll start off with Chad Gable. I think this is a great milestone. I am, for one, excited to see what Chad Gable can do as a singles competitor as Chad Gable. For something that was just a fun gimmick that obviously disrespected a lot of lucha heritage. He turned it into something that now can live on through many people. It's not just who's in the mask, it's about what it represents. And El Grande Americano is a lot bigger than life itself in this instance. Something not many lucha wrestlers have that name that could just carry down, and someone can come in and re-image it. I think the only name that comes to my mind is La Parca. So he's left a legacy behind, and I think that's a respectable thing, right? Now it's time to come back. You put all the uh Alpha Academy aside. You beat Chad Gable. He reminds me so much of Kurt Angle. And I'm just like, why don't you just go down that route? So that's just a personal preference. Um, as far as the tournament matches go, I like to see. I think Raquel Rodriguez will go on and win. I think that would be a great push. I want this push to happen for Raquel, so we'll see that. I want to see that happen tonight. Anoba Femme, maybe even after the Judgment Day getting involved, it's almost a squash match. No fair. And then your tribal chief Roman Reigns returns, and I don't think he has a match at Night of Champions. Okay, I think you keep the title away, right? The whole, oh, I'm not even scheduled to be there. Maybe you have Jacob Fatu do some sort of battle, do his dirty work, right? This is not what Jacob Fatu is, the dirty man for Roman Reigns. So, I mean, it's I I don't see anything of luxury happening. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Like I said, I apologize for being gone for almost a week. I could definitely feel it. So hopefully it picks back up here later on this week. But we will still get to a lot of sports conversations, a lot more to unveil. But if you guys like this episode, we encourage you to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Please have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Please also follow us on our Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram page. And you could also take this podcast on the road wherever you get your podcasting needs at by visiting TNC Sports Talk on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, anywhere you get your podcasting needs at. We're there for you there. So we should be back tomorrow, hopefully, high noon tomorrow, and we'll talk more sports. Until then, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Thank you guys for tuning in to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Have a good day.